have the perspective of thought that I do at this point. I believe, I've been involved in lots of different kinds of study and self-development and workshops and classes and all of things like that, that really supported this book showing up the way that it shows up right now. And in saying that, I know that there is a sliver, not a sliver, there's a huge amount of strength and power inside of all of us. And what I had to do inside of that well period was find the little kernel of it, because sometimes it feels real far away and you're smothered from it. But I knew somewhere, if I heard that it existed, or if I knew that there was an example of somebody else that showed that it was there, and they grabbed hold of it and went for the ride, all I need is one example, and to know what is possible for myself. And that is what I really chose to get to. And in that well period, I just went, oh Lord, I know that this has to be true somewhere. Let me quiet down my life as much as I can and stay open to be guided. Clearly, my way of thinking about it, of interjecting my thoughts and actions and all that, is not doing it. And that's the message. If we were to send something out that can serve other people that are still dealing with that well period and are going to show up again into it, because that's just the nature of life, inside of that, we've got to know that inside of us is a bigger version. And I say that in my introduction. I write this book from the biggest incarnation of who I am. Not the Carlton that's on the facade that wears these clothes and goes to this job, but that spirit force that can never be diluted, that can never be taken away.
Yet, as you well know, the challenges that one is faced all the time and confronting, and I think it's important, another lesson that runs so parallel with that, I called it the cruise ship lesson. You wrote about it, but I called it my own, the cruise ship lesson, because I felt a connection to this element of it, and that was, no matter how bad the situation is, and this cruise ship thing that you were doing wasn't obviously...
It was crazy.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
But you know how many of the lessons could be learned from even those worse experiences. And in fact, as you allude in here, sometimes the best lessons are learned. And I know personally that has happened to me as well.
Yeah. And I couldn't get light of that until the cruise experience was over. It's just obvious that I was being groomed for a bigger position inside of it that was to, serve my life down the lines, but I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it at all. And, sometimes you just kind of got to chalk it up for what it is. But absolutely, there are gems inside of all of it. And I think it's only because of the study and the guidance and the mentors that I've had, and thank God my life coach that has helped me to see that there's purpose to all of it.
Well, let's take that now in what I call the nth degree, and that's actually what you call my helpful cloud.
Okay.
And that is, you find out you're HIV positive. And now all of that wisdom now culminates into, where do we go from here?
Right. That area is really the catalyst for getting this book done. I was diagnosed in 1985, so I was in my earliest 20s, and that was the period of time. I mean, it had only come out to the States in 1982, so it was fresh, scary, ugly beast to everyone. And I realized that I had just built up so much shame and guilt from choices of not disclosing it at the most appropriate times, and manipulating people in my life and all these things. And I thought, if I could just create something where people would know what my deal was, so if they wanted to hire me, date me, go out invite me to their dinner party, whatever, they would know what came with it. And that really is the reason that I chose to get this book done. Now, I knew that I had a purpose for it, but it also was not an exciting journey to go into every step of the way. And it took me 5 years to get it done. Some of it, you know, as intense as the information is, you need some space.
You write a line. I want to read it exactly, and then I want you to tell me how this plays out in your life, and it is this. In a quiet pocket of our physical structure, we have given the thing permission to be there. In this case, I do believe that thing is referring to the HIV thing that you had. I couldn't tell. It was in the same area of the book, but it seemed like it might be all the things, transcends it all.
Absolutely.
So
does.
Give me that.
You know, again, this is our home. This is our physical house. And as much as we want to, you know, as much as we know in order for things to work effectively, you got to prune it at some point. You have to be in charge of maintaining whatever that is. And so when we look at all of the complications or obstacles that seem to be on our lives, they're there. The people, the conditions, or at least our perspective on the conditions. Some of the conditions might not go away instantly, but clearly we have the ability, I know, to perceive it in a way that can keep it further away from us. We can address people in a certain way that can keep them further away from us. And so I do believe that for all the stuff that is going down, somewhere we have given liberty to it to take us over and keep us in chaos.
But how, I always want to be careful when I hear that lesson, because how do you then relieve the guilt when people then feel so responsible for, it's a fine line between the guilt of accountability and accepting responsibility, because you don't want to feel that you doomed yourself, so to speak. You want to be able to use this information to improve and help. I find that in my own personal life, it's a hard line for me to toe.
Mm-hmm. I think that, and they do play very close to each other for me. When we are in guilt, I believe that it plays so in line with the victim. I had to do this because they were being horrible. I had to behave that way because that was, and I find that there's a way that we can be about cleaning house that is acknowledging, claiming it exactly as it was, not as the story that we built it into. And that's the difference. Things happen. I take the glass, I offer you some water. You say, no, I don't really need any water. That's what happened. Now, my story could have been, he didn't want the water because I'm black and he thinks this, or I'm HIV diagnosed and I could create a whole story that ramps it into something much more chaotic. We don't know people's why. And you know, one of the other things I'm grateful to be able to do is to investigate that and to put that in the midst of something that doesn't feel appropriate.
Beautifully said, Carlton. Mm-hmm. You know, you told me earlier that if I give out the website for the publisher of the book, you will be responsible and answer all the viewers' mail. And I just know after hearing your words, they're going to want to get in touch with you. So I'm going to give that out right now. It is www.treelifepublishing.com. I'll spell it out. TREELifePublishing.com. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention her, Madonna. One has to bring her up because it is in the book.
Absolutely.
It's not that it's not. Although it's not a tell-all type of thing in regards to Madonna, even though one might think because of your role in all the